What is up, my friends? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you could find over at MMA Junkie as well as linemovement.com. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do today, tonight, whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully it's before the fight. Recording this right after weigh-ins. Las Vegas West Coast specific time, more specifically Las Vegas time, where hashtag UFC on Vegas 11 will be taking place, or UFC on ESPN plus 36, or UFC Fight Night 178, or UFC Fight Night Covington versus Woodley, which we're giving the former champion second billing. What the F is with that? Anyways, we'll talk about all that from top to bottom as we usually do. And if you're in a rush because I'm waiting till after weigh-ins to record it, especially in this pandemic era, feel free to skip forward. Check the show notes, whether you're on YouTube, it's provided there. Thank you for liking this video and subscribing to my channel, Daniel Tom MMA in advance. Or if it's on Apple Podcasts, thank you again for the 5-star ratings. Feel free to leave some more reviews on there. I'll read them off here on the show. But yes, check those show notes. I will timestamp when the breakdown starts, as I will break down that fight card from top to bottom. And if you're in even more of a rush, you can always exercise the format of the breakdown show, which includes a recap of my picks and plays at the very end of every breakdown show. So if you're in a rush, you can go there. We will be starting off the show with some important shout-outs that I have some information on them, as well as a very quick recap of UFC Vegas 10 and how the picks and plays went last week. That'll be quick, though. Yeah, hope you guys are doing well there. Let's jump right into it, shall we? Expedited edition. Let's see. You can look at the clock and tell the future. I can't tell it. I'm recording this at the time I'm recording this, and you guys can giggle if old Dan Tom ends up over 50 minutes or an hour, because I try to go under 45 for these. Newly minted main event, Meerschaert Waterson defeated Angela Hill via split decision. Not going to hash out the arguments on this. I think it came down to the 5th round, and I awarded more for damage, but I don't know if it was a shout out to Phil McKenzie tweeting it, but it was my thoughts exactly. Like it's like the end of the 3rd or 4th or something. Like you could just see Meerschaert Waterson turn on her teacher's pet instincts and just start key-eyeing after every shot that missed. And you're like, oh Jesus, here we go. Jackson Wink 101 round winning, spinning stuff that doesn't hit, because you just need to hit the one spinning elbow in the 4th round if you're John Jones versus Gustafson 1, not arguing or trying to rehash that score, but it was a great point of round winning, right? Except Waterson is not John Jones, was not able to hurt Angela Hill, I don't think once. So despite talking about doing damage on the way in, but it wasn't a robbery, though. I know it might sound salty here, but that's just more because rooting for Angela Hill, and even pre-political mumbo jumbo, which I won't be going into. I wasn't never a big fan of Karate Hottie, but that's just my opinion. I'm sure she's a swell person, and of course she was calling for the mom jam. She wants to go right to that front of the line. But hey, man, she's been doing it for a minute. You got to shoot your shot. Good on her. She fought hard, man, and we'll see what happens. Tough for Angie Hill, though, man. 2 split decisions, of which a lot of us, including myself, probably scored or leaned toward her. Not robberies in either case, but hard not to feel for Angie there. Atman Zatar defeats Khama Worthy. I was definitely wrong on the pick. I'm glad I wasn't super confident. That being said, I'm still not sold on Azatar. I'm almost kind of glad this happened, because I think we'll get a good fade price on this guy. Even if he's a legit knockout guy, I'm still going to fade you because you haven't gone to round 3 or really fought anybody. Until Khama Worthy is now the strongest person you fought. So I'll still be looking to fade in Azatar. This wasn't the spot. Good thing I didn't jump on it. But yeah, I didn't blame anybody who was playing worthy, especially at that opening dog price. So I'm not going to try to do revisionist history either. That being said, yeah, I'll be looking to fade the Azatar unless he's making a turnaround here in the UAE. Then it's going to be tough to pick against either Azatar for in the UAE, folks. Gas you up. All right, Roxanne Modafferi defeated Andrea Lee. Another pick I was wrong on. However, I will give myself credit because, again, both on here, on the podcast here, and as well as the Line Movement MMA betting sheet, I did put Roxanne Modafferi as the live dog, as the liveliest dog on the card, the most value, etc. She checked off all the boxes. I explained why. Felt like I did a pretty good job of it at saying that, regardless if you don't think Modafferi is going to win, I'm officially picking Lee in what's going to be a close fight. And a fight that's closer, at least, than the odds indicate, and that it was. And Lee's body language and choices did not help her. Whereas Roxanne, say what you will about her or her style, her consistency won through. So good on you if you sprinkled on that, and hopefully you stayed away from Lee regardless. And then, yes, shout out to not just Line Movement for holding my betting articles, as well as the Line Movement MMA Betting Show with Dan Levy over there, but we're also now not just on YouTube for Line Movement MMA or linemovement.com, but you can also find us now on Apple Podcasts on the Line Movement MMA Show on Apple Podcasts. Just search that, subscribe, and you get another weekly show. It'll always probably be coming out before this show because we record on Wednesday afternoon. So it usually just drops right Thursday morning. So be on the lookout for that. Whereas this show, as you know, I usually don't record till Thursday, or as my late butt usually does, especially in this pandemic era, I kind of accepted, hopefully you guys have too, these Friday recordings. I'm getting them up on YouTube faster, though, so hopefully you guys are clicking more on those and helping my measly 43 views or whatever. But hey, that's my fault. I don't get it out enough. But I'm trying, folks. I'm launching the YouTube channel solo in the pandemic era, and I feel like I've been doing good. Got some more interviews coming your way. Of course, the breakdown shows, and we'll eventually get back on these top 5 shows once I get some room to breathe from this UFC schedule. Speaking of room to breathe, the respite man, Chris Tyone, helped out old Ed Herman to defeat Mike Rodriguez via submission, Kimura. Kind of like how he won his tough contract, or tried to win it, I should say, going for them Kimuras. Ed Herman still does it. It paid off here. Granted, he got arguably finished twice by Mike Rodriguez. But it wasn't Ed Herman's fault. I blame more the ref. People were so upset about it. I was just laughing how people were upset regardless of what your opinion was. Just how butthurt people were about this. The only person who has the right to be butthurt, by the way, is Mike Rodriguez and his team, folks. I'm not mad at crafty Ed Herman. But yeah, Rodriguez, arguably had 2 finishes there, so you got to feel for him. Glad I stayed away from that fight. Bobby Green came through. Green. We'll get to the Green quarantine. But Bobby Green defeats Alan Patrick via unanimous decision. And, if that was Bobby Green in shape, I mean, Jesus, he still made himself look like a minus 500 to minus 1,000 favorite. As my co-host on the Line Movement MMA Betting Show, Dan was so kind to credit me with, but I'm not going to victory lap over a fucking chalk pick here, folks, so don't worry. That's not where I'm going down. That being said, seldom am I confident in things regardless of the price, and I was there, and again, I dare say I was pretty damn spot on right. So congrats to you big bettors who went big. I mean, I went big for me, but for me, I mean, that's like laying a couple $100 on the line. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, betting in the hundreds is not big. That's big for me. But I mean, for a lot of the people I talk to, it's not. So congrats if you were one of those bigger people and laid some G's on Mr. Green to make you some green. And if you paired him with Billy Quarantine defeating Kyle Nelson, it says, I think it was a 3rd round TKO, I think. But Billy Quarantine is an auto round 3 bet. As much as I want to brag here, again, I got to bring myself down to earth because somehow I missed the most obvious round 3 bet. I was kicking myself. You know, my man Derek Love, the Derek Love special. You know, we haven't busted out one of those. Maybe we will in this coming breakdown. He was all over it. You know, wasn't the greatest price, admittedly, but give yourself credit, Mr. Love. That was a good hit, and thank you, Mr. Quarantillo. Billy Quarantine. Defeated Kyle the Monster Nelson, who should probably be going up in weight. And he admitted it himself. We'll probably talk about that theme once again. Again, I'm not pounding this for no reason, folks. These fighters end up admitting them themselves when I usually say this. Sijara Eubanks proved to be a live dog once again. I thought Julia Avila was going to roll. I had Avila in a fun parlay. I ain't going to lie. But other than that, I'm glad I wasn't preaching to go big. So hopefully you didn't. And Sijara Eubanks, again, man, just proven to be a tough out. Got another quick booking. Can't remember who it is offhand. But, Caitlin Vieira. So that's going to be an interesting match. She's probably going to be an underdog again. But it's like, you know, do you have that recency bias, that little PTSD? We'll see. Got to look at the fight. Kevin Croom, with the best mugshot ever, defeated Roosevelt Roberts, who just kind of exposed that guy, right? Not going to shit on the guy while he's down, but I will give credit to my fellow unphotogenic brethren, Kevin Croom there. I know what it's like to be stuck with a bad shot, except I didn't have to do it in a cage fight. And you did, sir, and you still came out and got the old club and sub. Changed his life there with that 50K bonus. Happy to see it. Happy to see the bonuses go to these undercard fighters. Jalen Turner defeated Brock Weaver, making the most of what they could. Brock Weaver, man, he had to get finished a whole lot. Was that Herb Dean? Yeah, you don't do the walk-off KO, folks, with Herb Dean. Again, I talked about more of the power theory behind a lot of these calls, which I don't agree, and I'm not making an excuse for, certainly. But it's almost like, especially with Herb, it's like, no, I'm calling the fight. And they almost take offense of it. And they should establish control, like Goddard. This is my octagon. Listen, you fucking cunt. All right, he doesn't really say that. Sorry for the potty language. But, you have to take control, but you can let that interfere with what's a good call or not. Anyways, the right guy won. Hopefully Brock Weaver's all right, and we'll see what they do with him, man. That's a tough go, and good on Turner, Mr. Turner. Brian Barberina looking like he's back against Anthony Ivy. A lot of intangibles scared me away. I put him in a fun parlay. I don't know if it was the one that got shot down with Avila or not, but I was happy to see him come through. You could tell he's been doing strength and conditioning, even though Barberina still has his beer belly. And boy, oh God, I was watching footage of my grappling roll yesterday. I'm like, man, I don't look that big in the mirror on camera, but when I'm rolling, you just see, Jesus, what the hell's I've been hiding my belly? So I ain't hating, but you can tell the dude's been, his back actually and his shoulders look stronger than ever, which means you could tell he's been really doing the physical therapy, for what, could be career enders, depending on what you have done to your back. So good to see from Barberina. Great sign there. And how about Anthony Ivy putting up a fight? That shouldn't be lost. Sabino Masso defeated Justin Key. Saw people shouting me out there. I guess my... Oh, Dan, your creepiness is coming out, isn't it? Oh, Jesus. Telling you, those Colombians are my kryptonite. Stay on target. Sabino looked great. Had Justin Keach. Merrick. All right, Dan, don't go there either. Let's just push on past this fight, all right? Jesus, Dan. Digging yourself a fucking hole already. Alexander Romanov defeated Rogue Martinez via arm triangle and kind of showed why... I was high and had previous plays on him, / questioning why y'all were playing against Flo Rida, as I was calling him Flo Rida. But thankfully, my dude Aaron Bronstetter, who I do the pre-show with, shout-outs to Aaron, corrected me on that. But yeah, he would have washed him. Like, I was just watching this fight, I'm like, yeah, like, Rogerio de Lima would have thrown himself into 7 guillotines by round 2 by now. So... Secret's out on Romanov. Not saying he's going to be the champion, but I mean, like, as far as why you saw minus 350 openers that people bet down. Well, that's why. That is why. All right, 15 minutes. That's too long, Dan. That was too long. All right. Real quick, some shouts. I've been meaning to give these guys a shout again. Just the Sound of Violence at TSOV Pod. I don't know their recent one. They were really Pulver and Chris Medaffer. They were really cracking me up with their impressions, GSP and so forth. Do more of that, guys. And Pulver was saying something about, I forget what it was, but about referencing. By the way, he referenced. It's like he could peek into my head and secretly saw that I would love to do a film podcast someday. And of course, Zane Simon is amongst the top of those names who I would want to do that with. And shouts to Pulver for requesting that. But in reference to me and fucked up movies that he was questioning about Irreversible, trying to avoid it. I wasn't trying to avoid it. I actually have a very funny story, which I'm not going to share here. Maybe I'll share with y'all sometime. At a different time, but about Irreversible, about how I both saw it in film school and how I indoctrinated my friends into seeing it and probably ruined their lives, part of it, their brains, by showing them that movie. And I actually threatened in that thread that you tagged me in, Pulver, to make bets with Zane that involve him having to watch it because he is avoiding some Gasparno. He knows about Gasparno. So go check out their pod. It's always just fun shit talking dudes who I can relate to that. But I gotta try to keep it buttoned up here, folks. To the Breakdowns Art Fight podcast. They also present a nice, more eloquent yet also just everyday dude aspect of shooting the shit and talking about things like fight to art, and which I both love. Because I also love art. And they had one of my favorite guests, Chris Rennie, at Rennie MMA, on again to promote his new book, which he did with, gosh, darn it. Oh, is it Josh Rosenblatt? I don't know, but go to chrisrennie.com. You can get the digital copy. He sold out on the hard copies. I'm glad I got my order in. Just like a pandemic fight, though, I'm not going to count my... I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. I'm not going to count on it until the book gets here, but I will promote it nonetheless because Chris Rennie does great art. Gave some great insight on that podcast as well as far as drawing. And, also, and lastly but not leastly, just a shout out to my dude Sean Early of a podcast. Gave me some nice words of the podcast of encouragement, which really just any sharing and nice words is like more than I could ever ask for. However, if you go above and beyond too and leave a little bit in the PayPal over there on the hosting site mixedmartialanalyst.com, which is linked in my Twitter profile at DanTomMMA. I won't stop you, and it's much appreciated, especially for this free programming. As all my content has been free for the past 5 years. This podcast, though, has only been going through 4 of those years. But hey, 4 years of free content, nothing to sniff at, and I appreciate it, man. This stuff ain't easy. I ain't about to play a violin, but man, I do appreciate that. Of course, there are ways to support aside from sharing or giving me any money. In fact, you can just don't have to share, and you can go spend money for yourself. Just go to mixedmartialanalyst.com, again, the host site, and on the same right side, you may have to toggle to it depending on your web browser on a mobile device, but you will see the PayPal link under that. You will also see the Apple Podcast link for all those 5-star ratings and reviews, as well as on it an Amazon link. I know all y'all using that Amazon, unfortunately, but hey, that's life right now. Be sure to click through that Amazon link before you order your Amazon, or the Onnit link before you order your Onnit, and small percentage of your purchase will go back to the podcast and no extra cost to you. Helps keep this free. Thank you. All right, that is the shouts, and we are going to be on to UFC Fight Night 178, UFC on ESPN Plus 36, UFC hashtag UFC Vegas 11, UFC Fight Night Covington versus Woodley going down at the Apex ground. Political BS swinging. All right, I'm not going to sing this Fall Out Boy breakdown to you guys. Don't worry, it stops there. I just need to kill some time. as I time schmamp at 20 and load up the odds. All right, let's get into it. We're going to go from top to bottom as per usual, schmoction folks. A lot of fight cards. Everybody made weight, as I said at the top of the show, recording this after the weigh-ins. Duran looked great at the weigh-ins, by the way. My goodness. All right, Dan, stay on target. Colby Covington, minus 325. Tyron. Sorry, I have to say it like that. Tyron. That was my favorite part of that build-up, because he just had to, sorry. It was it's just that cadence. Tyron Woodley, plus 265. Yeah, man, speaking of Darren Till, Woodley does well against southpaws. He's either 6-0, or if you include a switch-stancing Stephen Thompson, who primarily fought southpaw against Woodley, he is 7-0-1. That being said, with those Stephen Thompson fights, or Kelvin Gastelum, or even with the included back in Strikeforce Nathan Coy's by split decision, a lot of these fights were closer than suspected. Nevertheless, if Covington, as the odds are, and me are predicting, as I'm sure you know by now, is my in-depth breakdown on this. If I miss anything, of course, as always, posted up at MMAJunkie.com. We can also find my grading the winners for this last week's Contender Series. Kind of brushed by that for a reason, though. But yes, in-depth breakdown there on the main event. And yeah, if Covington does get by Woodley, he should deserve credit for being that southpaw. But as you're starting to hear people chime in, from coaches to media members who've talked to said coaches, or plugging Covington himself, he is talking about being an orthodox fighter all along. Again, folks, this isn't a surprise because, for one, as I said in the Line Movement MMA Betting Show earlier this week, Covington's been going to orthodox sneakily, if you look at his last fight, and improving just his right hand in general, sitting down on his check right hook, which wasn't as much of a presence before. I think that's going to play, because that hits the left eye, and what happened to Woodley's left eye not but 3.5 months ago got split open really bad. So I think he's going to get split open here, which will help further cause things to fall apart or take away from any successes Woodley is having. I also like that Covington is acknowledging that pressure isn't just the key. Not to lead on that, because I think he's going to have some other things in store. And if he is finding out that he is a right-handed southpaw, which, he's explaining something that, again, I've covered a bunch of times on this program, folks, as a right-handed southpaw. And I've spotted it out. I'm pretty proud of my radar on that. Even guys who aren't, haven't gotten to the UFC level. Like, I remember interviewing Chris Curtis a couple years ago, who fought in the PFL. Before he fought in the PFL, just watching a couple fights and say, "You're right-handed southpaw, aren't you?" Yep. I'm like, and usually that's either because you came from traditional martial arts or wrestling. Because certain things, for traditional martial arts, I have less of a reasoning for that, even though that's where the bulk of my experience is from. But there's a lot of fighters that fight from a southpaw stance from there. Your right hand is kind of guiding, dominant forward. It's a little bit of a backwards theory from boxing, even though some boxers believe in keeping your strong hand forward, which I always loved about having that right-handed jab. That being said, I honestly felt my left hand from either stance, as a lead or a rear, is actually my more powerful shot to this day. So that being said, I'm a right hand. I'm a weird, partially ambi guy. Like, I'll right with my right, and I'll throw with my right. So I guess I'm right-handed dominant in that sense, which is why I'm a right-handed southpaw. But when you're shooting pool or skateboarding or doing things like goofy foot, I'm doing all those things left-handed. I'm fighting left-handed. I feel more powerful left-handed. I delegate my right hand as a guiding side. A lot of people in wrestling will do that as far as shooting too. They feel stronger, so they want to guide and launch. And as even though it's a penetration step, that penetration step is often a guiding point, right? It's a guiding point to your entry. So off that same theory, that's why you'll see a lot of right-handed wrestlers, fight from a left-handed stance, because they wrestle from that same stance. They wanted to push off from there. So, there's a lot of, then you get, talked into fighting southpaw, and maybe you're contrarian. You want to be different, because most people will try to talk you into training orthodox. So it's a tricky thing. In other words, I just scrambled a lot of information at you, but the point is, it can take a while for you to find your stance. Even when I shadow box now, and I feel like when I get back into moving around and sparring, I'm probably going to be doing more orthodox than I am southpaw, despite being a lifelong southpaw. I'm probably going to be switching stances a lot because I've always been a stance switcher, and it just seems even more crucial now that other people are learning how to do it, and you're starting to see it more common play. But yeah, man, it could take you a while to find your stance. So long-winded, I'm sorry, folks, but do not be surprised if Covington comes out and shows more of an orthodox stance, especially because there's a theory, Woodley does better against southpaws. That southpaw opens up the lane for the right hand. Say what you will about Woodley and his limited tools. What's his goddamn really good tool coming forward and off the counter? It is that right hand. So you can kind of shut down that lane. Again, two schools of thought from that, right? How did Josh Barnett shut down Roy Nelson's right hand? He actually went southpaw. He felt like he could see it more, put more space and distance as that stands naturally and inherently does. So again, not all schools of thought are right, but there are two different schools of thought that have been proven to be effective in that cage. So do not be surprised for that reason. Thirdly, another reason not to be surprised, Covington dishes out some orthodox. You switched over to MMA Masters, which are known for their calf kicks and their jiu-jitsu prowess as far as within their game planning. So and we also saw leg kicks like Tyron Woodley. It's not the same anymore. It's not like those kind of days where he's kicking one guy's leg and their other leg is blowing out. He is the one getting leg kicked. He was switching stance late in that fight with Gilbert. I know my man Bronstead loves some Duhinho. My eyes are slightly coming back, folks. Knock on wood. But you got to imagine Covington and his camp saw that. So again, all these reasons, don't be surprised to see him go more from orthodox, but from southpaw, that check hook, as it is for most southpaws, you should not leave home without it. Will be money. I think it's going to cut open Woodley, and I think it's going to be sprouting familiar scenes, man. And again, I think Woodley got a lot of mileage out of his style. I don't think the unfortunate part is he never got enough credit for his title reign or the things that he does try to support and do. But, you got to question, man. Not going to jump on Covington's joke about Masvidal and Woodley game planning. The only thing they're game planning is alimony payments. But, dude, like doing turnarounds, the legal stuff that is going on with you can't envy that in all seriousness. Not picking, not pointing, not trying to kick anybody when they're in any kind of position. But you got to look at these things, Why are they showing up? What's going on here? There's a reason why a lot of the bigger paychecks and bigger name guys haven't been showing up in the pandemic era, folks. The ones that are fortunate enough, first of all, let's be honest, first and foremost, that they don't have to. That's obviously part of it, firstly and foremostly, but chances are they probably care a little bit more about their career, right? Whereas guys getting big paychecks later on in their career, riding losing streaks, why would they be so eager to jump into bad style matchups against high-paced guys? Let's look at Robbie Lawler, right? I didn't want to spell that out. You never hear me accusing people of showing up for checks, but I'd be lying to you if that's what I wasn't thinking beforehand. And if you listen to that breakdown, I tried to spell it out as politely as possible. I wouldn't be surprised if there is any of that at play as well. But even if it's not, even if it's a good Tyron Woodley we're dealing with, I like Covington. So I'm going to go Covington by decision. But the decision prop, like I spelled out in the line movement MMA betting sheet, I don't think it's worth it as far as value goes. You're only getting $2 cheaper, and it's still chalk props, which are hard to recommend, especially because I know his amazing jiu-jitsu, and he got hurt, Woodley, and dropped him and got him down and still couldn't finish him, and Woodley deserves credit for that. That being said, the later pace is not going to be the same pace Covington puts, nor the same kind of pace if Covington gets going to his wrestling, which I think he will as well. Which means... And the jiu-jitsu with Daniel Valverde and Covington's jiu-jitsu that he was already showing these improvements, like the way he was, crunching over Lawler's back, threatening the RNC as he kind of just rode him without the hooks. Like, he does that stuff to Woodley. I could see him maybe even getting a late submission. That actually wouldn't surprise me, folks. I know he's not as good as Duhinho on paper, but it's matchups, it's timing, and catching him at the tail end of this beating, especially if he opens him up early, like I think, could get a late finish. So careful if you're riding some submission or go the distance props there. Covington straight up, minus 325. It's getting a little more reasonable, but it's going to be parlay piece for me. Niko Price, spring break forever. James Franco's character from Spring Breakers. Him and what's the shorts guy, Bryce Mitchell, share that. I got shorts every fucking color. I got shorts. Facing I'll be your Huckleberry. That was a terrible doc. Holiday, Donald Cerrone, plus 135 comeback. Price, I believe, opened as the favorite. The line opened closer, I think. But yeah, I get it. I'd be careful laying any kind of chalk, especially the growing chalk, on a Niko Price. But I did pick Niko, and I did, if you're looking for a plus angle on Niko, if you didn't want to play the plus 130 on Cerrone, which is now plus 135, I took a plus 130 on Price by KO, because that's how he wins. And that's, I believe, how he wins this fight. Cerrone more durable than you think. And yes, you got to look at who he beats and who he's lost to. He's only fought the best guys. It's Donald Cerrone. Like my co-host Dan said it best. This is going to be the after the fact fight. You know Dan Tom's favorite, the after the fucking fackers, right? From people in the space to just randos on Twitter. The after the fackers can be the worst. I'm sorry. And it's going to be full of it this fight. Even if you could be reluctant, biggest Cerrone fan, reluctant on your price pick, be as respectful about it as I usually am about all these picks. Doesn't matter if you get it wrong, and it's the veteran, which which is funny because most people, especially Twitter, is like they see a young guy versus a veteran and they just go fucking full chub, like it's just stiff. It's just like, what?
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please repeat what you said?
No, Siri, I'm not talking to you. Shut up.
Okay.
What the hell did I say to set that off? Oh, that's great. Jesus, Dan, you need to stay on target. Your phone's going to keep you on target. I swear, folks, it's the morning time. I'm sober. It's only coffee here. I don't think I've drank in weeks, actually. Jesus. But listen. My phone to go off. Dan, we've noticed that you've been saying this phrase a lot. Stop outing me on the podcast. Oh, Jesus. It goes stiff. Yeah, I was talking about stiffies, not serious. Jesus. I want to say it. It's got me gun shy. All right. Anyways, most people get very excited at this prospect of fading a veteran, is what I was saying. However, when it goes the other way, everybody's, the first in line to tell you I told you so. So feel free to do it to me, folks. I know the game I play. I'm not super confident, but I am confident enough, which deserves criticism if I'm wrong. Go ahead. I don't care. I'm going to take Price here. It's just... Cerrone, I did think that he won against Pettis, and yes, he does roll through guys who aren't firmly in the top 10 of welterweight or lightweight, but how long does those trends go, I mean, the dude ain't getting any younger at 37, 50-plus fights, 14-plus years. That's a long time, man. That's a long time, and even on the scale, he looked like drawn out. Like, is this fight at lightweight or welterweight? Jesus. Like, I don't know. He's got the old man body. I don't know, man. We'll see. I'm hot and cold. I'm picking Cerrone, but, Price as well. What kind of sold me, though, as well, was going to those Luque fights. I know he lost both of them, but Luque is a fighter who would definitely take out Cerrone and is a really good leg kicker, albeit he doesn't have the Donald Cerrone most leg kicks landed in UFC history stat. But because of that stat, you have to look at how fighters react to leg kicks. And from early in his herky-jerky career, Price has shown the ability to counter and knock dudes out, like Joe Man. And between Luque 1 and Luque 2, he showed better defense, distance management, and counters to the point where you can actually hear Luque giving him credit for it and massive props for it, and said that he was hurting his legs with his defense. So I like that. Niko Price is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, underrated scrambler, proven dangerous from all positions. So even though Cerrone grappling is his best bet and Cerrone finishing submission will be the most likely way he does if he does get a finish, Price shouldn't be completely overlooked in that grappling aspect either, man. So unless he gets caught with something stupid by submission, I see Price winning this fight. Yeah, Donald Cerrone could outwork him with volume and striking savvy, but 15 minutes is a long time to be in there with Niko Price. I mean, there's a reason why Niko Price, win or lose, doesn't see decision very much. He's a wild man with crazy power. So I got Price here. Next fight, Khamzat Chimaev, minus 390. Gerald, Meerschaert, plus 320. Not going to have the best breakdown here, folks. You guys know that I was one of those select few, because who do their homework of these guys they get in the UFC, and could see that Chimaev was going to be real deal, but now we get to really see him tested, which is nice. So even though I didn't quite agree with the opening line, I think this line's much more down to earth. I'm going to take Chimaev here. Obviously, you guys know I'm a big fan of GM3, Gerald Meerschaert. I'll be rooting for him here. I may even sprinkle on old GM3 if the line keeps jumping by fight day. But even though I like what Gerald's saying about not going to referee position and going to turtle, I just seen him go from turtle and be comfortable in bad positions too many times. That's the reason why I like him, because I'm no way going to pair myself to an amazing UFC fighter, athlete, skilled dude, tough dude like Meerschaert, but I'm just saying as far as grappling styles go strictly, I've got a lot of that same spirit, so I really dig Meerschaert's style. And, on the feet as well. I'm a southpaw, and we'll love to sling that hard body kick, and that's Meerschaert as well, which I got to imagine he's going to be slinging those against Chimaev, despite the counter takedown threat they present. So look for that. If I would be Meerschaert, I'd be selling out for that liver shot on his tall body, but Chimaev seems to have a good radar for that as well. He likes to break guys down with liver shots. If you look at that sparring footage with Gus, he's a big dude, man, so not too surprised to see that they're actually similar stature, despite this is the higher weight class that Chimaev competes in. So we'll see. I'm not sure if he finishes Gerald, because Gerald's tough and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and skilled. So I'll go Chimaev decision, but I will say, with the crap talk, which is now kind of swaying and making people root against Chimaev and root for Meerschaert more, which is great because I love Gerald, so I'm good with that. But it was kind of cool because it got, even though Gerald wasn't trying to, Chimaev got himself into an ego battle with his own ego. But that ego battle of, I'm going to submit you to prove a point, and, with the Jacker Manson stuff. And that was, brutal trash talk and clever, man, if you're going to go at a guy, right? Props to Chimaev, man. Very loose rules in this fight game, folks, whether you like it or not, and that's definitely within him. But here's what I saw from that. I'm like, oh, now he's going to want to back that up. Chimaev's going to have to back that up. Now, luckily for him, he gets all the fights into that wheelhouse where he can go for submissions, and kind of like Meerschaert's scouting report, he fights very similar to Khabib, except goes for more submissions than him, even more than Makhachev. I believe it's plus 230 the last time I looked at it, Chimaev by sub. So, on a juiced favorite who apparently is going to roll here, right, according to the odds, you get plus money that high on a sub. It's not high on in general, but for the circumstances, I would argue that's pretty tasty. So if you are a Chimaev supporter and looking to play him at a reasonable entry, that's certainly worth a sprinkle. Because now that gauntlet's been thrown, he's going to want to back it up. So in my opinion, it's going to be either Chimaev by sub or Chimaev by decision. I'm going to officially pick it by decision because I don't want to disrespect Meerschaert like that. But man, if you're unbiasedly looking to bet, well, I gave you the breadcrumb there. Johnny Walker minus 125. Ryan Superman Spann plus 105. Yeah, man, I'm still not sold on Walker. he started to sell me. He convinced me after being wrong on him, and then he proved my initial reads right. And oh boy, do I hate that. Do I hate people, getting me away from what's initially a right read. So I'm picking Ryan Spann here, but more importantly, I don't like the jumping around at camps. I know that there's been more that have come out recently since I recorded the Movement MMA Betting Show that he went up to Ireland, SBG. Johnny Walker did for a reason. He's got a girl there that he's met for a while. That sounds sweet. I wish him the best. I hope he does stick with a serious camp. But, he still seems like just a lot of brutal talent without the process. He claims to have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but I feel like he gets lost in the sauce, without the opportunistic spots. And we saw that even against Nikita Krylov, who is like fucking team captain of Lost in the Sauce. He's just been swimming in it since the day he was born, right? And he seemed like he perfectly knew how to navigate the maze, whereas Johnny Walker was just sauce lost in. Dan, stop with the lost sauce. All right. Stop it. But, so it just, I didn't like that. And against a guy who's going to want to grapple, say what you will against Sam Alvey about that game plan, but those propensities that Ryan Spann has is very good. I also like that Ryan Spann is going to be one of the few light heavyweights who can match him in wingspan or span or frame or whatever in general, in length and height, right? 6'5", to 6'5", or 6'6" if you go off Johnny Walker's last thing. The point is, I do like that. I think it's going to come in very handy. I also like that he seems to have a better gas tank to start off with, and that's probably because he's not making crazy cuts to 205 like Johnny Walker has, because he's so freaking huge. Ryan Spann, of course, he is fighting in the right weight class, but used to fight 185. Even, posted a picture of him on the scale in his regional career as low as 180. So I like that the guy doesn't have to cut a lot of weight, especially in this pandemic era. I also like that he doesn't have to travel as much, whereas Johnny Walker has to do all of those things. And even if this is the right fit, we give him the benefit of the doubt, there's always that adjusting period, much less for a guy that really doesn't have a lot of process to even build upon, right? So unless he gets his opportunistic KO flying knee, or something along those lines, I see Spann making this ugly against the cage. He doesn't even have to get his first takedown. Like, as long as he's pressing against the cage and making Johnny Walker work, the mathematical percentages are going to be slowly already swinging in Spann's favor. Because I believe it's a first-round KO or bust for Walker. Yes, Spann's been rocked more than his record shows. And yes, he's been rocked late, twice in that Sam Alvey fight. Once in the first, another in the third. However, I do like that he kept his cool and went for the takedown and got back on the clock. So, two ways to look at that. For plus money, especially, even though he was opened, Walker was opened as the favorite, it was one of those minus situations, and Spann went from minus 105 to plus 105. Well, I'm going to have to take a shot on Spann then, and I did. Just threw a unit on him. And I also took Spann by submission, plus 550 at half a unit. And easy Derek Love, because I see this being a really sloppy matchup, right? Both guys are going to be careful here. And because of how their last fights went, despite winning and losing. And I think if this thing makes it to a round 3, I don't think it sees its way out of round 3. So, for that reason, Spann round 3 plus 150, the Derek Love special. Just a quarter unit. Just a quarter unit on that. And I'll recap all these, folks, toward the end. Got that on the Line Movement MMA betting sheet. Not saying you need to follow me off a cliff. Not saying it's the most confident pick. It's freaking light heavyweight, folks, with the heavyweight intangibles. Let's not pretend ourselves. But, for better or worse, I am going to be honest with y'all. That's what I got. Mackenzie Dern is minus 165. randamarcos, I'm not going to make a joke there. randamarcos plus 145. Well, let's just say I will. Yeah, okay. Dan, stay on target. Oh, man. Yeah, this is an interesting fight. I'm surprised we're not getting like the minus 300 line on Dern. I'm not saying it's right or it should be. I don't think it should be. But this just seems like that classic spot. So for that reason, I was already looking this way. And then, shout out to James Lynch, who on the Octagon Outlook show, which is another weekly show you can find there in the Line Movement MMA YouTube channel, as well as that podcast feed I told you to subscribe to, said that she wasn't able due to the visas. Of course, she's a Canadian who trains at Scorpion Fighting Systems, I believe, or somewhere in Michigan. She actually trains at multiple gyms down there, including boxing gym, and wasn't able to go do that. She was able to make weight okay. She looked really relieved to do so. Mackenzie looked fantastic on the scales despite coming in later. So we'll see how that is because, Randa Marcos has had trouble with the scales as well. Maybe not as much or not as publicized as Dern. But, she really gives it her all to get on there. I mean, she's sweating to the last second, when you see her step on them scales, Randa Marcos. Randa, I went back and really watched their Amanda Rebos's fights to really help me and then their most recent ones as well. And yeah, from Marcos' takedown defense, which isn't as good, she's more of an offensive wrestler, is better than her defensive wrestling, which is another reason why it's so frustrating that, she doesn't get to it, especially fights where I do pick her as an underdog because wrestling is the key and she doesn't do it enough. But also what I notice is in general she doesn't do enough, even on the feet. Improved boxing, jab, which will be really good against, that's going to be a big key. We saw that, even though her jab's not as good as Rebos's, both in a head-to-head matchup and both by my judgment otherwise, still we saw what a jab can do to Dern's pressure. Dern can swing more than given credit for on the feet. She's definitely got pop and athleticism to knock girls down in and out of the UFC. I'm sure she's only going to be better with Jason Perillo, which is another thing I like than seeing the shape that she came in. That's a good sign. But more specifically is the boxing, even though she's those improvements there, you look at fights, even recent ones where she's down 2-0, her corner's telling her, and she's just letting the fight come to her. She's letting her opponent dictate the fight, and I don't like that. So at best, I feel like she's going to end up in the clinch with Dern, and even then, it's not good. I don't think she's going to win there. I think Dern's too strong there. I don't think she can rock Dern. She's not going to submit Dern. So at best, it's going to be Dern forcing her game ineffectively, but she'll be the one forcing it and forcing more offense and putting more out there to judge. Hence, the judges will give it to her if she doesn't get the submission outright. I'm going to go ahead and pick Dern by submission because I picked it on the Line Movement MMA Betting Show. However, I feel like minus 165 is more than a valuable enough entry point to play, and I played it, man. I played Mackenzie Dern here at minus 160. Again, this is another one. If I get it wrong, I'm gonna have to eat some shit because that's the one thing is even though I'm Mr. Contrarian and I go against hype trains and I'm skeptical with facts more than most. When I tend to back these MFers, they tend to fail, and then you just look like, oh, you're both the hype, dummy. Classic Dan Tom spot. So we'll see. We'll see if I eat S there. All right. I should have just said eat shit because eat S sound like eat easy, Dan. Let's just move on. Kevin Holland minus 260. He was minus 265. Wow, I don't think that line's going the wrong way. Versus Darren the Dentist Stewart plus 220. You gonna bet against me again, Dan? Huh? I didn't show you the last time a fighting submission of a mocky fighting Patolo. That's not how Darren Stewart sounds, Dan. But you know what? He did. And props to you, Darren Stewart. Get your first career submission. You burnt us last time out. However, I think you were the one getting guillotined this time, sir. To tip my hand there. Again, man, for the same reason why I was preaching, fighters like Bobby Green are going to do well during the pandemic era. Well, I think Kevin Holland has a lot of those hallmarks of swagger, from the verbal warfare and gamesmanship to his slick countering styles that often aren't given credit for enough by judges or fans, and the fans aren't still getting on it because they couldn't see what he was doing in that Buckley fight. But I loved it. I'm like, this is perfect. People are still going to want to fade Holland the next time out, and even though minus 260 is still high, you could argue this thing should be creeping higher, not lower, like it is doing. So I had Kevin Holland as my fighter to target this week, similar to Bobby Green. Whether you're a serious chalk player, parlay piecer, or a prop angle that I kind of gave away, which I'm going to go Holland by sub plus 500, which I put half a unit on because I think he's going to guillotine him here. Darren Stewart can be rocked. He's not beyond being rocked, which is another reason why I picked Patolo to beat him, because he actually gets rocked a lot, even though he doesn't have a TKO loss to his name. He just usually falls apart and will give a submission like a guillotine, which is what I'm predicting here, because he's not going to be able to hurt or hit Holland. And once he doesn't, and Holland starts talking crap and just piecing him up and talking to him, and he's going to want to go to his wrestling. His underrated wrestling and takedowns. He's going to get angry. He's not going to know what to do. He's going to combust, and he's going to dive his head into the guillotine. So that's how I see this one going. I parlayed him with someone else on the card who we'll talk about shortly. And yeah, good luck to you. All right, next fight, David Dvorak and Jordan Espinoza, even minus 110. Espinoza opened as a plus 145 underdog, I want to say. So if you got him there, I think that was the right play. He's my lean here. I like Espinoza and his improvements, particularly his jab. He's always had the athleticism. I was just afraid he was an opportunist who wasn't going to do enough. He seems to be moving in the right direction, though, which is why I will side with him here. However, I was really impressed when I did go back to watch David Dvorak. Super technical, man. You know, he might only have regional MMA titles to his credit and no official grappling ranks or credentials, but the dude's grappling is really spot on. Works really well from a front headlock if Espinoza does go for those takedowns. That being said, Espinoza looks like he's got a decent low signal and will hit some ankle pick action in there. Yeah, man, that's going to be really interesting, the scrambles and whatnot, too. Dvorak knows what he's doing. He can fight from both stances, can counter. Seems like he kind of has answers from everywhere. So this is going to be a sweaty fight, in my opinion. Not worth betting probably either side at minus 110. This is definitely a fight where you want to just take the dog or pass. So from an analyst perspective and even from my early lean betting perspective, yeah, Espinoza for me. Good luck if you got him at those dog prices. I'm staying away from this one, though. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Mara Marero Borella. I've been fucked it up. Mayra Bueno Silva, minus 255. Mara Romero Borella, plus 215. Mara Morero Borella is a southpaw, which is always interesting, especially with, you know, me and Dan were kind of having a snicker that she's actually listed as a black belt in kickboxing and a black belt in shoot box. I don't see it. She's got some jiu-jitsu credentials in there as well. She's really just athletic and, you know, I think gets by on the physicals, let's just say. Whereas Mayra Banisilva is really easy to forget about for me. She looks like a Brazilian girl number 7 they imported in to fill a card really quick, and now she's kind of stuck here. Nothing against the Brazilian females, believe me. I'm just saying, the U.S. more of a comment on the UFC's mass recruiting and just the state of the schedule these days. I can't. Dude, I've already forgotten about people I've graded in the beginning of Dana White Contender Series. Then they extended them and make them longer every year, and now we're postponing it till November. I'm going to forget where the fuck I am by the time this finishes. I even think Mayra Bueno Silva probably fought in the Brazilian Contenders. But anyways, I'm going to take her to win here. She's seems like more of the natural fighter to me. In the clinch, on the feet, even on the ground. So I'll take Bueno Silva. Not much to say there. I don't blame her for using her as a parlay piece. That's probably one of the safer chalks to go about. You could probably even argue that it's safer than, well, it is because it should be because it's the higher price than the chalk that I attached officially, but it's probably safer than what I'm about to play. So for that reason, don't follow me off cliffs. And if I'm seemingly neglecting a big chalk piece, it's not because I'm missing it. I'm going to probably incorporate her too. But these are always dangerous, man. The female chalk could be very dangerous. You got to know which one's worthy and which one's not. So far, I've been pretty good about it recently. Let's see if we can continue that trend here, because we have Jessica Rose Clark at minus 230 and Sarah Alpar plus 190. Now, even if you're not, you want to, fade the attractive girl thing, which, can go well for you. See last week with Andrea Lee. Be careful, because those same people would fall victim to judging a book by its cover. Let's just say with Sarah Alpar. Not very impressive looking, let's just say, but she deceptively does a lot of stuff well. Southpaw, got a check right hook, durable, willing to get dirty. Some decent wrestling. She's got that lazy man DC single leg where she just kind of hikes the football down and encourages the turtle tripod reverse get up so she can take it back. And that's what she did in her Contender Series fight. Wrestling is her base, but the thing is, I wanted her to cut back down to 125. I'm not going to tell girls where to go with their weight. I mean, Jessica Rose Clark was really hurting herself, and she looked like she was in great shape, right? But regardless of whether it looks like Alpar could make 125 or not, that is where I thought that's where she would be a deceptive out at 135 against girls with deceptively as much but more experience like a Clark. Maybe not so much. I really like Clark's improvements on her right hand. I think that's going to be money with the southpaw stance. Even against Kianzad in a fight she lost previously, you saw the improvements. She really clocked up Kianzad consistently with her right hand. It was just kind of like what the commentators, there were just a couple footwork adjustments that were kind of missing. I think she's going to be able to get away with those regardless of whether or not she's been able to improve those over at CSA during this pandemic time. But the big answer for Clark is going to be the wrestling. I don't think she's going to be able to give a submission. Clark has underrated grappling in that sense. And when she gets on top, she's actually underrated from a positional standpoint. However, that's got to be your worry here against Sarah Alpar. Alpar, say what you will about fighting in the wrong weight class or what kind of shape she's going to be in this pandemic era. She was coming off of a canceled booking, which means, it's an extended camp for her. So I'm sure she's going to be very game. That being said, I still think Clark rolls in a fight that's definitely going to go to decision probably. So for that reason, I'll take Clark. I paired her up with Holland for minus 102 at 3 units. Very chalky, I know. You don't have to follow me off the cliff, but that's what I'm playing. Next fight, I'm really excited for, and I'm really mad at myself. There's just so many goddamn fights. I think it was like 15 15 or something. Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 fights. Jesus, fuck. But yeah, this one I'm excited for. Journey Newson, minus 135. Randy Costa plus 115. The line movement is correct, which is why I stayed away from it. Good on you if you got Journey Newson, who opened up as like a plus 155 underdog. I think that was a good bet. We'll see how the result goes. Ultimately, that determines what a good bet it is and isn't. That being said, I'm not comfortable, betting against Randy Costa, which is another reason I'm going to stay away. Shout out to the fight site, to my man Philippe, who did always just excellent interviews. My French brother from another mother. Another reason why to check out thefight-site.com, as well as subscribe to their YouTube and podcast channel. This was a great interview. They got a visual component too, because you get a fighter breaking down his work. And Randy Costa, even with heavy Boston accent there, does a fantastic job. Really well spoken. Really analytical kid. Really dig the explanations on his style. There wasn't a hitch in his knee, but we all know Rogan gets fixated on things, especially men's legs, for whatever reason. Look at his thighs. I really want him to throw more leg kicks, Mike. All I want is leg kicks. But, he's got that Korean style, but the countering style, also some boxing, some kickboxing, and he mishmashes them together in his own way, which I really appreciate. So I'm a big fan of Randy Costa here. Don't get it twisted. I'm also a fan of Journey Newson, who, even though Randy Costa does have some underrated wrestling defense, because I didn't realize that he used to wrestle, at least probably I believe at a high school level, I think it was, as far as that base goes. He's did a lot of athletes as a sport, very athletic bantamweight. Newsom, even though he's compact and looks like a late era WEC guy, he's got some real skills as well, man. And he's shown he can knock out those tall bantamweights. He's got some counter right hands, some boxing chops of his own. Came in, I believe his father was a boxer or fighter or something. As his head coach, got him into it at a young age. Maybe it wasn't a boxer, maybe it was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because the guy's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. So he will have the advantage in grappling exchanges should they happen, and scrambles, but Costa seems to be no slouch in the wrestling, and hopefully for his sake, scrambling department. So the line is more down to earth. I believe Newson should be slightly favored, but it's really hard to be confident on either side. I'm going to pick Newson here. No bet for me. Good luck if you're playing anything at dog money, because that is really the only way to justify it for me. Andre Ewell minus 225, Irwin Rivera plus 185. I didn't get a chance to look at this because I really wanted to look at it, because in case you didn't know, I'm always going to look to fade Andre Ewell. Damn, what do you got against Andre Ewell? Nothing. I'm sure he's a really nice guy. It's just there's these guys that I just like with Billy Quarantine going against Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson seems like a really nice guy too. But just some guys I feel like they're fighting in the wrong weight class. And until they make that eventuality a reality, I'm going to look at them through a handicapped lens. It doesn't mean I'm not going to pick them. In fact, I'll go ahead and pick Andre Ewell here, but this is on my avoid list. Even though I didn't look at it, I will say this guy is not a guy you want to be betting heavy chalk on. From what I remember, Irwin Rivera, he should be able to put out more volume and get his kind of game going. I don't think the wrestling there is going to be a problem. But, again, man, Andre Ewell, he drops off for a reason. Things start falling apart, from breaking hands to ribs and just injuries and fights like this. It's not uncommon. These guys are too big for these damn weight classes. You look at O'Malley, right? It's all falling apart for a reason, Montel Jackson. Oh, his gas tank's falling up. Well, I wonder why his gas tank keeps falling apart. Kyle Nelson, I just said, who admitted it himself. I wonder why his gas tank keeps falling apart. So I got the squinty eyes over at Andre Ewell. Nothing personal. I'm sure he's a really nice guy. But as far as this game goes, folks, I'll pick him here. But it's a void list. Also on the avoid list, I'll be picking the favorite, TJ Laramie, minus 320. Derek Minor, plus 260. Laramie's never been submitted, whereas Derek Minor is the guillotine choke specialist. However, Laramie does like to wrestle, and even though he, has competed in grappling, has competed in the gi, and knows a thing or two about choking himself. The thing is, even though he's been ready for UFC level for some time, he's Derek Minor is, you could argue, is more experienced, if not just as experienced. So he is still in the danger zone as far as on paper levels go, and as far as stylistic threats go. TJ Laramie's safe. He can strike, don't get me wrong, but especially as a shorter featherweight, his safety zone seems to be able to push into the clinch, get those takedowns, and that's where you run into guillotines. That's where scrambles can ensue, and you get caught coming up to your base in a turtle or referee's position for a back taker like Minor, a back taker and guillotine specialist, right? So that is the danger there. So for that reason, Minor could be live for an upset submission. Every prospect has to have one of those, right? This could be it for Laramie. I'm not picking it to happen. I'm picking Laramie to win, probably by decision, if not a late stoppage. But at minus 320, no way, Jose, am I playing or touching that. Tyson Nam, lastly, but not leastly, minus 185 for Jerome Rivera, plus 160. I didn't get time to look into this, but I saw the line is growing a bit in Nam's favor, which I don't disagree with. Initially, he got bet down, but I like Nam. Obviously, low volume. Without looking at it off the top of my head, Jerome Rivera's best path is going to be, like most people's, is out volume him, but can he do that without getting tagged meaningfully or his lights put out against, I would say the second hardest hitter next to Dice Duguera, Davison Figueiredo. I'll agree with my co-host on the Live Movement MMA show on that one. Yeah, that is Tyson Nam. So I'll pick Tyson Nam. I'll pick the Hawaiian here. But I'm not telling you to go crazy on that. In fact, since I didn't do anything, I'll fill that in for my last avoid list, just to be honest and transparent, because I didn't play it. I probably won't. And I didn't do it, so it's on my avoid list for that reason. If you've got a good hedge, Erlene, you take a shot. Don't let me dissuade you. I just put it on my avoid list for that reason amongst a couple others. All right, how did we do on time? Ah, damn it, we went over an hour. Fuck me, you guys had laughed at me in the beginning, and you deserve to. All right, well, it was a long card. I'm sorry. I'm taking Covington over Woodley, taking Price over Spring Break, over Cerrone, taking Chimaev over Meerschaert, Hearts with Meerschaert there, taking Spann over Walker, taking Dern over Marcos, taking Holland over Stewart, taking Espinosa over Dvorak, taking Silva over Borrell, taking Rose Clark over Alpar, taking Jeremy Newson over Costa, taking Uhl over Rivera, taking Laramie over Minor, taking Nam over Rivera, parlayed Holland and Clark at -102 for 3 units, took Dern straight up at -165 for 2 units, took Spann, shot on Spann at +105 for 1 unit, played Holland by sub for a half unit at +500, Spann by sub +550 at a half a unit, as well as Spann round 3 +150. By the way, I'm going to be looking at rounds 2 and round 3 bets there for Kevin Holland as well, because I think those will be worth looking at. +65, 765 round 2, little sprinkles, and round 3 +1100, easy there, Derek Love. Price by TKO, I took a half unit sprinkle at +130. If you're looking to play Chimaev, +230 by sub probably isn't bad for the Pride and Eagle gauntlet that he just threw down in the submission department. On my avoid list, doesn't have to be on yours, is Uhl Rivera. I'm not sold on Uhl. Laramie Minor, watch out for Guillotine Trap City. And I didn't do any studies, so I'll go ahead and throw Nam Rivera on there. Thank you guys so much. Follow me at Dan Tom MMA. Follow the podcast on all social platforms. Won't pollute your feed, but it really does help a lot at the PYN Podcast. You can also visit the hosting site for the podcast, which provides you free entertainment at mixedmartialanalyst.com, where you can find PayPal links and Amazon click-throughs, as well as links for Apple Podcasts. 5-star ratings and reviews help, as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. Daniel Tom MMA on YouTube. Like the video, subscribe, share, help my measly views and subscriber count. It's a big help. Helps keep this thing free, continues to keep it free all week long. Bonus episodes, all that and more coming to you. Good luck on your picks and plays, and until next time, protect your neck.